Hello, hello, Mr. Josh.
Good day, my friend.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm
Nice.
feeling good.
Good, man. Good. It's
Yeah,
nice to speak with you again.
you as well.
Yeah,
It's good to
man.
see you.
So, yeah, maybe we'll just get started a little bit and just talk about kind of how did you sort of get interested in kind of philosophy and sort of, kind of like learning about this kind of stuff, psychology, I suppose you could say, and like how did you first kind of get turned on to this type of stuff?
Right. So, this may sound a bit far fetched and egregious, but it started with a bit of what I would say is religious delirium or
Uh huh.
paranoia.
Really? Okay.
Hmm. Yeah. So, well, to be fair, each of us are sort of enshrined individually
Mm.
in Western culture. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what is that? What is that instantiated by? Well, you've got a bit of Greek philosophy
Mm-hmm.
that resonates down. And then you've got Christianity, which is
Mm-hmm.
at the pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that religious thought is subliminally augured into our minds from a
Mm-hmm.
very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, it's about ideology as a whole, is it's not meant to just simply be created on an objective sphere. It's meant to be created outside of that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
metaphysically deranged and looking for questions and not getting any answers. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I started to very much confide in religion. I
Mm-hmm.
was,
Oh,
uh,
really? I didn't know that actually. Okay.
yeah, well, surprise. And,
Ah, surprise, surprise. Religion
and
strikes again.
right, right.
Okay. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's crippling
Oh,
too,
shit.
because these archetypes,
Mm.
uh, so to speak, since they're nested both subjectively and biologically,
Mm.
they also produce uh, they produce efficacy via dream, I would say.
Mm.
So
How biologically do you figure? Like we're almost like indoctrinated from the beginning. Do you
right.
feel? Yeah. Hmm.
So what I think, and this is a Jungian observation when it
Mm.
comes to the archetypes. I could be misconstruing this slightly because
Mm.
it's sort of a complex concept.
Mm.
But the reason why it's biologically nested as
Mm.
well is because where it is true that we have been indoctrinated since time immemorial, it seems.
True.
The thing about it as well is that all of these archetypal questions have been aggregated sufficiently across time.
Hmm.
They're all questions that we all want the answer to.
Mm-hmm.
So, in particular, you have, and this is a broad example I can give to sort of condense this
Mm.
very long topic.
Mm.
We all sort of ask the meaning of life,
Mm-hmm.
the meaning of existence,
Mm-hmm.
and the one thing that we tend to settle on, ideally, is what aggregates us sufficiently across time.
Mm-hmm. So is that
You,
like what's meaningful to us, like
right,
across
because
generations and stuff?
right, and,
Okay.
and and the reason I say that is because it's not necessarily axiomatic that you are going to find the meaning of life,
Mm.
but meaning in life is sufficient.
Hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah,
Right.
totally. That's fucking smart. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so it's biologically nested because that's also sort of interwoven in the tribal mentality if
Hmm.
you think about it.
Mm.
And the tribal mentality is nested in us biologically, being that we're
Mm-hmm.
social creatures. And so that's how that sort of reverberates
Mm-hmm.
into
And like it is kind of like we kind of like find meaning. You're right, like in our tribal setting too, don't
yeah,
we? Like we find meaning in like working together as a tribe and like protecting the tribe and accomplishing
precisely.
things as the tribe. Yeah, that's cool. That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's exactly it too. That's something that seems to be quite uh, overlooked,
Hmm.
I would say,
Hmm.
today. and even
Yeah, that's fucking true. Yeah, we're missing like being part of a tribe and shit. Yeah.
right. Well, and that sort of resounds or resonates from the Enlightenment, right? That's something that
Hmm.
is within the last 250 years or so,
Mm-hmm.
and it's trickled down. It's a very conservative system,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Mm-hmm.
It starts at the top and it trickles its way down.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so back to how I got
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
into philosophy and the likes of it.
You went into religion first. You took a little
Right.
detour into religion.
Right. But here's the thing that's interesting. And this is even a Nietzschean perspective as well as a Jungian, Freudian perspective. And I think even Jean Piaget had
Mm-hmm.
these same ideations. And it's like this, right? It's a multivalent layer of being. And so at each nested place of thought, we'll say, or being,
Mm-hmm.
because it could correlate strongly with our being itself,
Mm-hmm.
is we're nested in narrative and mythology first and foremost.
Mm.
And then on the other side of that is religion.
Mm.
And then from religion, you've got philosophy, and philosophy is articulating these things in a manner that's explicit to delving into the labyrinth of those ideas,
Mm-hmm.
extracting the most a priori constituent elements from them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So philosophy is kind of doing this as a tool,
right.
almost. Yeah.
Right. That's
Okay.
right. And
Okay.
because those two things, be the philosophy and religion, that is, are tight knit, very closely correlated.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so then beyond that, you start to get into, you could even say STEM fields if you'd like. You start to get into objectivity,
Mm-hmm.
science, and then down to sort of the pinnacle, or it could be the obverse, where narrative thought is the pinnacle. But that's where it's an erroneous process, because we know that we haven't always been thinking empirically, right?
Like as a human being, species?
Right, as a species. It's a very new thought pattern.
What does that mean? What does empirical mean? That's like with like evidence and science and stuff? And
Right.
Yeah.
So the empirical perspective is that the only explanation for anything and everything is external factor. That's it. There's no internal factor at all.
Oh, fuck. I see. Okay. So that's right. Yeah.
The way you can delineate or differentiate that is we're not all fucking scientists.
Right. No, exactly. But that's funny because we really do that a lot in our society, don't we? Where we're always trying to be like, this is the reason for that. Like this is right. But it's not always that simple with shit.
No, it's certainly not. There's an ignorance towards subjectivity because they think it to be anecdotal fallacy and incendiary, and they really focus on dogmatism.
They do. Yeah, science loves that type of shit.
Oh yeah, and they'll denigrate that and auger it so deep in the ground that it has no more credibility, and we could possibly elicit why that's dangerous.
Right. True. Yeah.
But so anyway, as I ventured forth,
right,
these myriad of paths, I found myself sort of bereft of life. I would say that I was transitioning into this nihilistic, delirious state.
Was that kind of driven by religion? Like when you start to look into religion?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For sure. Certainly. Because I started to have all these reoccurring dreams, the most grotesque, malevolent, devilish, and hellish dreams, man.
Really?
And it was actually kind of scary.
Really?
Right? Because,
and did that kind of get started really only after you started getting into religion?
Yeah.
No
so
way.
it was sort of a precursor to really delving into it. And so I was on the verge of it because it really happened after my neighbor had passed away. She was very close to me, and she'd passed, and the first death that I'd ever dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And that just completely decimated me, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, why would God do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I could find those answers, and I think because I was asking the wrong answers and trying to negate my intrinsic evil, and perhaps negate, and this is a far-fetched idea, but negate my tribal responsibility to see how I was in any way responsible for the ongoings of my existence. Now that being said, I was reading a criticism of Christianity, because after I'd been in the church for a while, getting my young ass up every Sunday in the morning, going to join the herd, standing up and just being a part of it. It wasn't the imitation of Christ, it was the imitation of the herd.
There you go. Boom. I like that. It wasn't the imitation of Christ. Yeah. It was the imitation of the herd.
That's right.
Well put,
That's
man.
Right. And what happens when you put 100 docile men in one room? Whew. They all negate their 100 brains for one.
Yeah. No one gets impregnated, that's for sure.
Yeah. Someone might get raped, though. But
oh, Jesus.
You never know.
Yeah.
Depends on how much shrooms are involved.
Jesus. Well, yeah, like a bunch of dociles. Yeah, that's not getting you anywhere.
Those insipid troglodytes. That's what. That's the best way to describe them.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so you're in there with the troglodytes.
Yeah. And they're all sickly looking and ghastly, and we're singing for our supper, getting communion, drinking blood, and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'd overheard some people sort of talking about philosophy, but they were talking about ancient Greek philosophy, and they also were talking about. I think they were talking about inviting someone who was of different faith to the church. I think it was some Jew that wanted to come to the Catholic Church or whatever. Mm-hmm. And fair enough. But that sort of sparked an interest to me. So I looked up a criticism of Christianity. And of course, well, this was quite a while ago, but I imagine it would be the same. One of the first search results was Nietzsche. Mm-hmm. And Nietzsche's criticism wasn't of the valuation system, but was of dogmatic Christianity. And I started to sort of convolute more and more and start to incrementally pick ideas out and think, I'm being this herd animal right now. I'm a bunch of people that actually don't believe what they say. They enact and embody truth. They're just there because that's what they were sort of raised to do. Right? You're talking about indoctrination. And so after that discovery of philosophy and those profane ways of thinking, they're definitely not the norm for today. And I started to get into it, and it sort of launched from there.
Okay, so, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were making, you had some questions when your neighbor passed away. You were wondering why would God do this? So you figured, let me find out more about God. And as far as you knew, God was located down at the Christian church. So you went down there and started fucking sauntering around and shuffling up and down the aisles. And, you know, and you figured it really after a while, perhaps, maybe, that wasn't the only way. So you started looking into some other options. And the first sort of thing you came across was Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right.
Good for you. Okay. So, and you started to dive into him.
Yeah. And you know, quite fervently, you know, I was just enamored with this unyielding, untrammeled sense of this is canonical truth in countenance, and that's important. That means within moral confines. What he's establishing is something so profound and outworldly, because I truly believe that Nietzsche's thought, his mind, was not only transient, but transcendent above most people, right? And I believe his thought stream was coming from something just so omniscient, so apparent, but we were, as a whole, as a collective, in his time period, far too blind to actually, and that's another archetype, the archetypal blind man, too confined within the parameters of our ideology to actually see that what he was saying and what he was warning was coming to be. And of course, the 20th century happened, and then
and so Nietzsche, he was around in the late 1800s, right?
Yeah. So I believe, actually, I have Thus Spake Zarathustra in front of me because I was reading it a bit today, and he was born. So small town, October 15th, 1844. Right. Okay. So I think he may have been born before that, but. May have been when this book was produced. So, regardless.
So he's in like the mid to late 1800s.
Yeah.
And he was a German guy, right?
Right.
Right. And that's cool. Like, I mean, I've obviously come across Nietzsche many times, and I hear a lot of people talking about him. I haven't personally gone deep into his stuff, but what can you share some of his major concepts or some of his some of the big truths or lessons that he kind of speaks about?
Yeah, I could do that. So I think now that this is one of the biggest ones. So I'll elicit a few of them, and then I'll tell you specifically about a concept called the pale criminal. I really love this concept. But you have a few. So you have the last man. So last man is the nihilistic wretch of the earth. You've got master morality and slave morality. You've got so Zarathustra's character, that was known as the Übermensch, or the Overman, so the Superman idea. And then to convolute further about his ideas in particular, mostly perturbed about abridging the necessity of religion with the natural man, the beast, the noble beast.
Just 1 second. What did he say about the Übermensch? What was the Superman supposed to be?
Okay, right. And so in that concept, there's two groups of Übermensch, sort of. There's ones perturbed with intellect, and then one becoming they're what they most truly are. And those are abridged. There's just two different versions, because we know that not every man is capable of being that primordial, primitive beast of a man. But at the pinnacle of that, what he espoused was the person that can create their own morals and values. And the whole corpus, the whole edifice of that is a bit incoherent. And the reason I say that is because I would say that Dostoevsky, who's a Russian writer, so what Nietzsche writes in philosophy, Dostoevsky writes in fiction. And what he essentially established and articulated, and I don't think this is trivial, I think there's something more to it. He said that without the transcendent arbiter of values, realistically, we can do whatever we want. However, it appears as though we are born with an intrinsic system of values that our being cannot defy or negate.
Yeah, it's in there. There's something in us that if we tap into, speaks to us, and it's in tune with like the universe, and it has moral and value structure within us. Yeah.
And I was talking a bit to my girl today about it. I brought it up to her, and she questioned it, and rightfully so. She said, well, is that necessarily true given the fact that she used the term indoctrinated too, I believe, but given the fact that we're so indoctrinated with our morals, like we're sort of taught those. But I beg to differ slightly, because I do believe that there is an intrinsic value system that our being can't go against. But it's an interesting thing that I have to learn more about before I could talk more about. But yeah. So and that's where Nietzsche again may be wrong. But that was one of his biggest proclamations.
So he had kind of this Ubermensch idea of like a kind of like noble man that we all have within us, and we can sort of tap into, something like that.
Right.
Sick,
and because it's just not clear enough, it's not luminous enough for us to actually elucidate or substantiate our own values. Because the way that I see it is, well, you'd have to deconstruct yourself to the point of actual forgetfulness. You'd have to forget constituent elements to your being and then reiterate them. And it's not necessarily clear that we'd be up to that task.
It, like, in order to tap into that?
I think so. I think it would be a complete dissemination of your being.
Because there's something in there you can tap into. I definitely believe that. Yes. Was he encouraging that? Was he talking about, like, you should do that?
Yes. And so Jung as well, in the process of individuation. Now, Jung derived a lot of his theory from Nietzschean philosophy.
Oh, okay.
But the process of individuation wasn't necessarily disconcerted with creating a value system. That's because that, again, also that value system seems to be disembodied. It doesn't, disembodied to some degree and internal to another degree. So what Jung did with the process of individuation was take these profound proclivities to building your own caricature. Right? And so, well, how do you conduct yourself and aggregate yourself sufficiently across time? You have to start internally and build yourself. And so that's sort of where Jung steps in and abridges and is sort of a continuation of Nietzsche's thought process.
Oh, really? Okay. So Jung was really carrying on from what Nietzsche was saying in a way.
Yeah.
And Jung came in the 20th century. He was a little into the mid 20s.
Yeah, he was at the end. He was at the end of Nietzsche's time.
Okay.
But
yeah.
Because I'm certain Jung was born at the very end of the 18th century.
The 1800s, yeah. Okay, was he a German guy as well, or where was he? He
Swiss German.
Swiss, okay, yep, cool.
So, yeah, it's and his ideas are profound, and something that he really focuses on is the androgynous spirit. And this is Jack Donovan's criticism.
Shout out to Jack Donovan.
Yeah, exactly. And when I heard his criticism of it, I thought, you're right to some degree, because what Jung thought of was, well, we have an androgynous spirit, the anima and the animus, and they correlate. They're interwoven with one another, and it's both feminine and masculine spirit. And I don't think that's completely wrong. I don't think it is at all.
Mm.
I definitely see where the idea comes from because, for instance, you'll notice that there's some women that have masculine traits,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some men that have feminine traits.
Yeah, for sure.
And femininity and masculinity, are both primordial constituent elements of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't, I would say that's, you can't reconcile that because I think it's a truism. I do believe that. I also think it's irrefutable. So, and that's what's so interesting about Jung, because his psychoanalysis is rather taboo.
About what?
About these concepts and delving into dreams mostly.
Oh, okay. Okay, so just hold on one second. Okay, so Jung was talking about how there was this kind of like masculine and feminine within each of us. And then was Jack Donovan kind of disputing that a little bit, was he?
Yeah.
And what was Donovan saying?
So what Jack Donovan was saying about it was men don't need any more femininity.
He's fucking probably right in this fucking century.
I heard it. I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah.
And it to some degree it's true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
After watching everything unfold, we know that egalitarian states don't work.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with pursuing your masculinity, right?
And that's it's the way to go.
That's the point he was getting to.
For sure, absolutely. Good on Jack Donovan. He's a legend.
Yeah, he is.
Look, I mean, it's like, I guess like I sort of agree. And I don't know the whole idea that Jung had, but I think it's true that within each of us is a degree of masculinity and a degree of femininity. And
you just got 20 likes for that. So
everyone's like, I love it, Luke. I love it. Luke's about safe spaces now. Everyone's equal. Luke said everyone's equal and deserves safe spaces. Get the fuck out of here. Like, I mean, but again, it's like, there's like elements of that, like within it, all of us, I suppose. And we're all born, like all fetuses are born like feminine fetuses.
Yeah.
And you have to like develop into the masculinity over time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that's a process,
Yes.
And I think that, so we are all kind of like a balance of each, and we kind of have to find like a feminine balance, like a woman or whatever, or even just nature that can balance the femininity with our masculinity. Because no one's like 100% masculine like all the fucking time.
No, that's right.
Like they're like James Bond is not a real fucking guy.
Yeah, exactly. Kratos. Kratos is not a real character.
It's like, it's a movie, like it's a mythology, and so, I mean, but definitely 100% in favor of what Jack Donovan. I am gonna assume maybe what he was talking about was like, like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, like, femininity side. We got fucking plenty of it. It's like you're like the men are got plenty of it. It's like you're up in the Arctic, you're up in the fucking Arctic worrying if you got ice cubes in the freezer.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, don't worry about it. We got enough. There's plenty. Plenty. That's there's
enough ice to go around.
Yeah, there's plenty of ice. Okay, we don't worry about that. And so it's the same. It's like in our current age, like. Yeah, the men have plenty of fucking femininity in them.
Right. I mean, because the thing is too is it's an ancient concept, and and he also derived a lot of his theory from the alchemical texts, right? And the alchemists were sort of these Gnostics that were there to rekindle Christianity, so to speak, but from a sort of an occultist, naturalist point of view, to do with medicines and plants, and they thought of actually of the idea of the philosopher's stone, the axis mundi, which is the world tree. They established the prima materia, right? And they were the ones that sort of kick-started those ideas. Of course, those are also very ancient ideas coming back from Paleolithic era, I would say. But
and these guys were starting that all up again.
Yeah, that's right.
When were they doing this? Like again, like in the 1800s or something?
No, they're older. I believe they
like 1600s or something, or
maybe in the Renaissance.
Oh, like okay, 13. Yeah, I think that's around like either like the late 1400s or 1500s. Yeah, something like I think 1400s. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's where you see those guys.
Okay, cool. So, and they were called what now? The Gnostics and sort of.
Yeah, so the alchemists.
The alchemists. Okay. Yep.
And I believe Gnosticism is derived from.
Interesting.
Yeah. Right. And okay. And so during the process of individuation, right. So something. The motif of it is basically this: you accept the tragic preconditions of existence. Okay. So. Right.
Yeah.
What might that be?
It is fucking brutal, but I love it. Hey. Accept the tragic preconditions of existence?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Right. Listen here, son. Accept the tragic preconditions of existence. Okay, that's good advice. Okay, keep going, yeah.
If you don't accept it, then you might as well just lay in your fucking bed all day. Right?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. Okay, yeah, keep going.
So, right, and to bring some Eastern philosophy into that, the Buddhist dictum, life is suffering. Well, what do they want you to do with that idea or that conjecture? They want you to live it. So, well, how do you do that, right? How do you accept that life is suffering? Well, you have a humble, somewhat humiliating conversation with yourself in the mirror. Maybe you need a shot of whiskey to get yourself to that stage. But regardless, you instantiate, well, how is life suffering? Okay. Then you get into the existential point of view. Everything that you are given in life is denigrated and in need of repair. Right.
It's true. Yeah, I love it. Keep going, man.
Right. And so once you've established, you start to derive as a caricature. Okay. And so what do you do with that caricature? You figure out where you're suffering. You note your errors. You try to illuminate and take hold of opportunities. And during the process of individuation, after soul searching, asking fundamental questions, writing things down, then you start to build that, and you will eventually. It's not a trivial or innocuous thing. It takes quite some time. But once you instantiate it, right, what you're doing is you're manifesting a relationship with reality and aligning yourself with it in a truthful manner.
Fucking A.
Right.
Yeah, bro. That's sick.
Right.
That's fucking dope, man. Good, man. Good.
And so I guess that's a good precursor again into philosophy as well.
Mm.
And
Okay. So that you just kind of explained, you figured that's individuation.
right,
Okay, that
right,
is good, man. That was seriously a good, and that's kind of like a way of thinking about things, I suppose you'd
yeah,
say. And that basically came from Nietzsche or more Jung.
yeah.
Nietzsche. Okay.
So it came a lot from Nietzsche, Jung,
Mm.
other New Age philosophers, Steven Pinker, Jordan Peterson.
Oh, okay. So those guys are talking a lot about how the fuck do you say it again?
Individuation
Individuation.
or individualization. I mean,
Okay. Either
individuation
way.
is just a Jungian term.
Okay, so that's a lot what those guys are talking about too. Okay, cool,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, no, that sounds super solid, and I can
right,
see why those guys are all into it.
right.
Okay, so you want to move to a little bit of philosophy here. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Go ahead, because I just know about like Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, the Stoics are great, man. The
Okay,
Stoics are great.
okay.
Uh, I can, well, we
Illuminate
could
that
talk.
a little bit for me. What's going on there with philosophy? I know Marcus Aurelius. I know he learned a little bit from Plato, something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, okay, well, here's uh, a Nietzschean criticism
Mm-hmm.
of Stoicism.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he saw Stoicism as self-tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
And to establish that a little bit, um, essentially what the Stoics have done to themselves
Mm-hmm.
is they've given themselves ultimate control over when to show emotion. But I can say that what Nietzsche said could be axiomatic to some degree, because think about when you're most emotional, when you're most denigrated, actually, and you're feeling emotionally and in a compensatory manner where everything is overwhelmingly stark, ravenous, mad, and you're overwhelmed and
Mm-hmm.
overbeared by neurotic emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You think in those moments if Stoicism is really going to help you.
That's a very good point, man. That is a very, very good point.
Yeah,
Like, I agree with that because in those moments, yeah, it's like the car's already out of control.
right.
Right? And it's like you're still saying like, well, pump the brakes, and it's like, bro, I'm already heading over this fucking cliff.
We're getting the trees on the way too.
Yeah, bro, I'm already flying through trees here, and you're like, pump the brakes. Like,
yeah.
bro, what the fuck? So
counter steer, man.
yeah, steer, hit the steering wheel. Fucking hell. But like that's very good point. Like because Stoicism and this idea of like maybe not self-tyranny, but let's call it maybe self-discipline, perhaps.
Yeah, sure.
I think that is a very good approach to establishing certain standards, certain routines, certain behaviors, certain like like patterns of thought, and you can start to steer yourself in a direction that is productive. So, and that's what I took out of Stoicism, but I actually hadn't heard this criticism before that you say that Jung, was it Jung who criticized it? Nietzsche. Okay.
Yeah.
So I hadn't actually heard that criticism of it before, but that is a very good point.
Yeah. Yeah. And to actually buttress your argument, because I don't have any satire or dispersions against that. I do believe that Stoicism is a fundamental philosophy. And I've derived a lot of my ideas in the beginning from Stoicism.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And the reason being is because it's so, it's not nonsensical. It's just axiomatic.
It's practical.
Just true. It's practical. Yeah. It's pragmatic.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right. And so if you take that into account and you think, and if you really focus on if you really focus on not focusing on, I know it's a bit of an enigmatic sentence, but if you focus on not focusing on external events, you really augur and drill into your mind that there are things out of your control, both internally and externally. Right. But if you're trying to articulate and establish something more than that, because I find that Stoicism can sort of be like a restraints that you will eventually need to relinquish yourself from. I sort of see it as a stepping stone. Like, here's Stoicism, it's down here. And then that next step is something, maybe getting into Aristotelian philosophy. And then jumping up, because Stoicism will give you that foreground. It kind of gives you an armament to bolster yourself and not be to be unperturbed about the trivialities of existence. But when it comes to the emotional continuity and the connectivity with others, Stoicism can be dangerous. Because if you hold that value system firmly, you'll never really create an emotional connection with many people. Because you'll be too concerned about their external negativity impacting your life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't heard that before, really, because like I said, I haven't read up a lot on Nietzsche, and even though I like Jack Donovan, I haven't read all his books or any of this. But this is an interesting sort of addition to Stoicism, rather than just that kind of just like firm discipline of like, this is it, this is what's happening. But I sort of do hear you that there is somewhat of a, it could to a degree leave you a little bit kind of I don't want to say isolated, but just almost a little, it does seem like maybe there is a little something that needs to be added on to that. So that's very cool, man. That's cool.
Right. And the Stoic philosophers, of course, did and I would say not only an anomalous, but a phenomenological job at
for sure
doing discipline, right?
And you're talking like 2,000 years ago or whenever that was. So I mean, it was and actually, just so people know, Marcus Aurelius wrote that what's now called the book Meditations, which was really just a series of journal entries that he wrote for himself while on campaign up in Germania to kind of bolster himself, to help him run the empire. He was the emperor of Rome. So it wasn't exactly like something that he had like refined and worked on to send down the generations, to send down the millennia. Really, it was something that he worked out as a way to make sense of reality and of his own life, and to help him govern that fucking empire and win these battles. So it was of its time, I suppose. It was of its fucking surroundings.
That's right. Well, not only that, but you're also surrounded by the impending foul stench of death. That could be tomorrow, and that's in any battle, any war, but especially then,
And he was getting older as well, so
So, and he's got other responsibilities besides his soldiers too, and so he had to find a way, I would say, even to dispense with and justify how it wouldn't matter if he died, because hopefully he confided a lot in his son, as far as I can tell.
Commodus,
and I would say that those idioms that he wrote, and then they were important and decisive of how he was going to deal with his own death.
Yeah. And maybe
Right.
he was writing them for his son, too, because I think his
Yeah.
son was not, didn't live up to what Marcus Aurelius accomplished.
No, I think his nickname, or whatever you would call it, I think he was something the Mad.
Old Commodus, as we know from Joaquin Phoenix and Gladiator. He didn't exactly live up to the fucking, to the standards of his dad. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Man. Huh. Okay, no, that is very interesting. So that's a little bit about how you kind of got turned on to all this stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of a lot through that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it as well is that to some degree, yeah, and I'm not sure if this is just how I interpret it, but it almost seems taboo to some degree to propound any of these perplexing things to an average person. And the reason why I think that is because, well, first of all, there's a lack of understanding, a lack of intellect and profundity sort of surrounding the average person, so they don't want to hear it. But it also goes against a lot of the blind political parameters of ideology. And so that's why you see, for instance, on the almighty Twitter, someone will share a quote and they'll go to these, and just use an example. There's this quote, Nietzschean quote page that I follow, and I like to share quotes. You read the comments, and some people are like, "Didn't he hate Jews?"
Yeah, okay, just that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like that really is a thing. Like, people, like, it's a strange world we live in, We're someone that's accomplished nothing in their fucking life.
Yeah.
Who's sitting at home, who the only fucking impeding obstacle to them reaching out and fucking polluting someone else's life is their fucking fat, stupid, sweaty thumbs.
With the Cheeto dust on their fucking shirt.
Cheeto dust everywhere. Fuck Nietzsche. A great man. A great man. And you're gonna and you denigrate him with your Cheeto dust fingers.
Right.
Fuck him.
The worst is he even wrote a criticism, I believe, in The Will to Power or The Gay Science, I can't remember. He wrote a criticism against anti-Semitism and his disdain for it.
Right. And I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but I know that the Nazis took a hold of some of Nietzsche's stuff, and I think they cherry-picked some particular things that they liked, and Hitler liked the idea of the fucking Übermenschen and the fucking Undermenschen or whatever, and they I think they even revised that book a few times, and they put out editions during the Third Reich, which were more palatable to that fucking regime. And so it just, right? And I don't know, who knows? There was a lot of fucking anti-Semitism throughout the years in Europe and all over the place. And so someone who just, it's like you see how someone, they don't have anything valuable to add to the conversation, so they just go to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, that's right.
And he doesn't like this person, so.
Well, and I mean, to think that they could actually contend with such a brilliant mind.
That's right.
It's like you are so certain. And they cast these satirical, perfidious dispersions. And they think they're so intelligent. They're on Google Translate.
Yeah.
Or a Google Dictionary. Sorry, looking at the biggest word I can find to criticize someone and plop it in a sentence, and it doesn't even make sense.
No.
And
and it's like it's like, you know, and it's like you have to be able to engage with someone in a real way. And so much of this stuff is set in a vacuum where you can just drop it and then you can just
disappear.
You just disappear. And fuck that person, and you disappear. It's not productive. It's not healthy.
No, that's right. No, that's so true. And the most important thing that we could take from this, and this is really no trivial thing, is if we're to formulate reciprocal relationships with the greater expanse of the world that we are so interwoven with now. You know, we have to be able to have a place where you can engage in an intellectual manner. We need to go beyond the unscrupulous, denigrating social platform, because we can see what emerges from that, and it's just chaos and indignant deceit. It's all bullshit.
It's bullshit. And that's one thing I think I've mentioned before in some previous vids, is the funniest thing is that this new environment you're speaking about, you know what? Yeah. It's really not taking place on fucking Twitter. It's no longer in the universities.
No.
It's not in the political sphere. It's not in some fucking bar. You know where it is now? It's on fucking YouTube.
Yeah. That's true.
It's on podcasts.
By far.
It's on like people like us who are taking time to engage in a meaningful way.
Right.
And it's not the it's not the person who you thought it was going to be. Yeah. It's you know what I mean? It's fucking Josh with his fucking short haircut and Luke with his fucking big stupid beard. And we're sitting here working things out. And it's terrifying to some chode in a fucking philosophy department who fucking, can't even pick out a pair of pants that fit properly.
What kind of neck does he have?
Oh, he's got a fucking neck the size of a fucking Bic pen. He's got, oh, there it is. There he is right there. There he is right there with his stupid, there he is. There he is right there with his egg head popping out.
I'm offended.
Fucking number 2 pencil neck over there. Like, I mean, fucking HB, fucking number 2 pencil. Number 2 pencil head over there, pencil neck. I mean, it's true, and he's offended, and he doesn't get why guys like us or Joe Rogan or whoever it is, Jack Donovan, all these guys are making sense now. Because we're willing to have like meaningful, open conversations, and we don't care if we don't agree on every little fucking thing.
No.
Like, we don't have to agree on every little thing. I'm not worried every time I say a word, I hope Josh didn't get offended because he has short hair and I have slightly longer hair. I'm wearing a vest and he's wearing sleeves. Oh, no.
God.
Like, so it's funny like that.
Man, it is. And it's interesting that you brought that up, though. I just wanted to convolute that a little bit about the characteristics that you just espoused about us. Because the thing about identity politics and the sort of identity politics and things of that nature.
Division,
Right. Yeah, and so they juxtapose people, right? Mm-hmm. They take their characteristics. We're both white, right? Okay, sure. But what's the rest of my ethnicity? And you know what? You can even boil it down to what color hair do I have? What nose shape do I have? What shape are my ears? The point that I'm trying to get to is that can be disillusioned, disseminated down to the individual. Now, they want to talk about racism in particular.
Mm.
The thing about that is they negate the fact that each of our characteristics can be broken down to the individual, but they don't want us to go there because the herd mentality, and regardless if this is subliminal or not, they don't want you to obtain that process of individuation. They don't want you to think like an individual. They want you to capitulate to their indignant, insipid ideations. Just sitting there and putting on your chains while asking you if you're offended.
Yeah.
You know, like, are you offended?
Yeah.
You know? And then here you are. And here we are actually trying to sort ourselves out. And it starts on the individual level, right? The pinnacle of your moral hierarchy, say, the alleviation of unnecessary pain and suffering. That will eventually reverberate from me onto the world. Right? And so that's the thing. If they can keep you confined in that stratum, that substructure, then you don't realize that you're actually being treated unfairly as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, you're like your own jailer. You become your own jailer. It's like, it's like they're kind of telling you what offends you, and you're buying into it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I'm offended. You're offended about you're white and he's black. You guys can't get along because you both are offending each other.
Right. Well, then it's like something that I've heard a bit about on Prager University and things of that nature. Prager U, I guess. There was some activists trying to kick white people out of a library. Like, she came up to them and she was saying, this is a space for different ethnic diversities or whatever. There's too many of you in here. You can't be.
What the fuck kind of stupidity is that? I should just say here for the audience, don't you worry. We got a black guy coming on soon onto the fucking YouTube channel. We're a fucking open space here. We got a black guy coming on soon. And he's actually also gay, too. Imagine that. Ooh, jeez. Hope people won't be fucking offended. Shout out to my bro Agent Q, who's coming on soon. Live from Miami. Okay, but yeah, so what happened? They had a couple white dudes were down there and they were getting mad, were they?
Just get triggered, right?
What the fuck is this shit?
Yeah. Right, it's bullshit. Anyway, so
it's hilarious. Like, I mean, all this stuff, like it's all just. I don't even know what to say about it. Like, if you could get a person to sit down like this and have a reasonable, open dialogue, you could dispel that retarded shit.
That's right.
Because it makes no sense. It's like, that's not productive. That's not productive for anyone.
It is. Well, it's like, and when you realize the fact, now, when you start to actually elicit this, when you realize that I, as a white person, am not everyone's enemy.
Yeah, no.
No. I'm not here to denigrate your existence. I'm not here to spit to say your name.
No.
I'm not here to make you feel like you're inferior and I'm superior.
Yeah, for sure.
What I would rather espouse to the world is build your own sufficient caricature. It's not. You don't have to be. You don't have to be bereft in a sea of vagueness, right? You don't have to be lost. You could simply say, you know what? Today's the day I'm going to look at the man in the fucking mirror. Right?
Boom. 100%, man. 100%. And you know what? Like, that's that's across the board, man. And like that's where it starts. It's like that's where it
Yeah.
starts. Like we take an opportunity to improve ourselves, and
Right.
that's the hugest issue with all this social justice warrior shit
Yeah. Yeah.
is they're so fucking full of problems. And I know
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson. Have you read his book?
I actually both of them.
Okay.
I own both of them.
Okay, so the one that it's 12 rules for your
12
life.
rules. Yeah.
Okay, so he has one rule that's clean your own room first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that rule, I can't name all the rules off the top of my head, but that rule alone is the one that's in most dire need
Yeah.
in the fucking social justice warrior community.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
it's like that. It's like, bro, you yourself, first of all, your fucking neck
Yeah. Yeah.
is the size of a fucking number 2 pencil. There it is, a pen, a big pen. That's your
There you
neck. Can you just go to the gym, please?
Yeah.
Can you give me a couple pull-ups? A fucking few push-ups. Just give me a couple fucking push-ups, bro.
Do something. Right? Well, that's it, right? And so, to convolute this a little bit, and to sort of extract some things from Jack Donovan a little bit as well. Well, actually, I'll pose it in a question. Who, and we spoke about this one time, but who would you want to watch your back? Right? Like, who would you want to have your back? Do you want some meek, infantile, pathological cokehead who drinks themselves to sleep and can't be bothered to get up and
Twitter rants,
exude? Right. Or would you want someone that maybe you've got a little bit of a coke problem? You're managing it, or sobriety. Sorry, is actually quite quite a nice life. So I'd rather have the sober-minded individual, to be but it comes to a matter of who would you want to have your back, and how can I be an individual within my group?
Right? Yeah. And how can I be of service to my group? And that's the other thing. Right. This thing where you don't want that guy who's doing coke all the time, who's drunk, who never takes care of himself, and da-da-da. It's like, you don't want him guarding your back. You want the guy who's got his shit together. And the issue with all the social justice warriors is they don't have their shit together.
No.
They're fucking hysterical at all times. They're all over the place. They've got constant bipolar fucking schizophrenia, and they're hysterical all the time. And what they don't understand is nobody wants them around.
No.
Nobody wants to be cool with them. And that's the big thing with the social justice warriors. It's just, you aren't cool. Like, it's a huge group of people who were never cool because no one wants them around. Because they behave so badly, and what they do is they just shout louder. Like, we're just going to make a big stink about it. But it's like, yo, the cool group's over here trying to work things out and do the cool things and build their value and build their individualization and clean their room. The cool group's over here doing all that stuff. And you guys, instead of just becoming cool so that this group would want you around, you guys don't want to put the work in to become cool. So what do? You just shout louder.
Yeah, exactly.
And you shout all over Twitter. And you shout all up and down the streets. And you march and you point fingers at everyone. But the cool groups over here, we're just looking at you guys and we're like, why don't you guys just start trying to help us? Why don't you guys just get on board and we can all work together? But you don't want to because it's too hard and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, they fundamentally disagree with your presuppositions. But the thing about that is to have someone challenge your ideas is the most not only the most truthful manner for you to figure out if what you're saying is true, but it also helps you fine tune what you're talking about, right? But if they're not willing to challenge you and not willing to be challenged, then they're producing absolutely no efficacy. They're not being a sophisticated denizen. And the thing is that the majority, I would say, is even when they get their way, they're still pious and exalted and venerated above everyone else because it's just not good enough. Nothing is good enough. But I think the rudimentary issue, and I firmly believe this, and it goes beyond, say, narcissism or depression, anxiety. It goes beyond that psychological fundament. It's nihilism. It's the belief in nothing, and they're sporadically and rapaciously clinging to anything that fuels the multivalent fire of their soul. And I use those words carefully because I do believe that it is, again, a bit of an archetypal thing. Because you've got the personality that correlates with it, right? So you've got your personality that is a benefactor of where you lay politically, how you interact with the world, how your perceptions are predicated and built to some degree. But then you have this sort of ulterior subjective motif that's emanating. And that is perhaps it's perhaps an uninformed confrontation with the unconscious. And I know that that's far-fetched and sort of in the darkness, but simultaneously those things are sort of interwoven because you can't really have one without the other. And so if you're trying to have a bit of a rational reduction or absolved of all of the experiences of life to rational insignificance, which is, I think, what they're doing subliminally, and refusing, again, to have this type of dialogue.
Yeah.
Right, because I believe that we're still picking up the pieces of the 20th century, and that's something that's
a good point. Just hold on 1 second with that, because that's actually also that's a different point. Before we get to that, the way that you're talking about these social justice warriors and all these people, how they are nihilists, and I kind of agree with that because they're nihilists because they're not building anything.
Right.
Nothing they're doing has any substance to it.
Right.
They're never sitting down like this and having like a meaningful conversation where you can like disagree a bit, and they're not like refining their ideas.
Right.
They're not like, oh, hey, did you ever think about this, Josh? Did you know about this guy? And you're like, whoa, really? I didn't. Oh, shit. Let me learn about that. Yeah. It's like already in our conversation just here tonight. There's been things that you told me that I'm like, fuck, I didn't even know that. Like, shit, okay, I should look into that. That's a whole new idea. And that's how you get better. It's just like martial arts. Oh, shit, I didn't know I could get choked out like that. Now I do. Yeah, gee, I didn't know 100 pull-ups is fucking hard. Now my muscles know that. Now my neck doesn't look like a fucking knitting needle anymore. So, fucking knitting needle neck over there. Yeah. Triple N. Triple N. The knitting needle neck. You know, so it's like we're learning things, and these fucking people don't want to do that. They just want to go around shouting everyone down and fuck, bad, and that doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't produce anything. So no wonder they're nihilistic. No wonder when they finally get what they want, when some chode politician gives them what they want, okay, you're right, everyone's equal and you all deserve a fucking safe space together. And so they get their
Right.
little safe space, and the government cordons them off a little square fucking area with paint and goes, "This is a safe space. Everyone can get along, and no one can say anything mean to anyone." They all go and stand in there,
Yeah.
and there's nothing going on.
No,
There
that's
they
it.
are, a bunch of fucking pencil neck losers standing around with each other.
Right.
And
Well, and this is something that Dostoevsky had noted on, and something along the lines of, you can give man all of his basic needs. You can give him, like, incentivized. You can give him a home, food, cake, booze, drugs. You can give him everything he could ever want, and there will always be someone to start trouble.
Mm.
And there's this one thing also that Dostoevsky said that I really liked. There was a man running from a beast who jumped into a well, and he's clinging on to some vines, and off the leaves of the vines, while he's hanging in terror, noting that there's a beast above him, there's honey that's being produced from the leaves. And so he starts suckling and licking the honey. But what he doesn't notice is that below him there's a dragon with a gaping jaw waiting to eat him. And above him there's mice gnawing at the vines that he's hanging to. And I think that elicits society as a whole. We are too focused on suckling the honey and the benefits that we negate completely that dragon with the gaping jaw just below us.
And the mice up there chewing
and the mice chewing the vines.
100%, man. We are so obsessed with these little pointless things, whether it's the next celebrity thing, scandal that happens, whether it's the newest iPhone or the new Netflix show. It's like we don't notice the fact, say those are all the mice gnawing.
Yeah.
We don't notice that right below us, we're also like fundamentally wrecking our actual planet.
Right.
We're systematically polluting our water supply. And I'm not saying these things are hopeless. Like, we have technologies we're working on. Yeah. But it's like these things are important. It's like we're not recognizing the idea that, like, the way we treat each other is not really correct. We're mean to people when we don't need to be. And this isn't some social justice fucking PC bullshit where it's like, don't use this word, don't use that word. No, it's like we're mean to people all the time. It's like those fucking social justice warriors, like, they never take accountability for the way they shame people publicly.
Exactly.
Like the way they treat people, and it's like, that's mean, bro.
Yeah, it is.
It's fucking mean.
Hypocrites.
Yeah, they are hypocrites. They're such fucking bullies. And then they want to turn around and make fucking laws against using this and that. So,
yeah, I mean, if it's a true reciprocal arrangement, I insult you, depending on who you are, you're going to insult me back. If it escalates further than that, that's our problem. It's not the media's problem. It's not my neighbor's problem. It's not my boss's problem. The fact of the matter is that people blow these things out of proportion, and then say you're having a relatively sophisticated discussion, and it turns into a political debate. Well, then things become disarrayed and bereft of sense very quickly. And that's why I tend to stay away from politics. I know plenty about it, but
yeah, and the whole thing's kind of just fucking dumb anyway, isn't it? It's like we know it's all just kind of a lie at this point, and like it's not where the real value is anymore. No. It's like there's no real value in like political arrangements. The whole thing's like bought and paid for. Like, we all know it. Yeah. And so there's not really, you're just fighting more of the same with that bullshit.
Right. I mean, what I would rather focus on is, like I've alluded to earlier, is building my caricature.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'd like to talk a bit about that more, because I just thought about this really, is not only do I want that for myself, but I want that for my significant other as well, because I firmly believe that she deserves to not only have a reciprocal arrangement, right, but to also have me bolster her idiosyncratic insufficiencies, and she'll bolster mine. And the hope is that goes so far down to every level of being that is tangible, that is, because there's obviously things out of our grasp. But it'll go down so far to a degree that we're able to be the king and queen of our own life. The conquerors of our own existence.
And that is the way that men and women can work together. And that's again what they're not understanding, what the mainstream is not understanding.
Yeah.
Is that like an actual man, as you just described, wants to encourage his significant other, female significant other. He's not.
That's right.
He doesn't want to put her. He's not trying to put her down. He's not trying to keep her from fucking achieving her goals or starting a business or being independent or making money or any of that. He's not trying to do that at all. He's completely encouraging her and supporting her, and he's expecting she's going to do the same for him. That's called fucking basic evolutionary biology.
Right.
We're working together. I'm out spearing a fucking deer, and I'm dragging it home, and oh my gosh, you already have a fire made, wife, and some berries picked.
Yeah.
What do you know? Geez, now we're having, now we can cook this dinner and eat fucking deer steak with berries and shit.
And the constituent element of that was we, us.
Together, right?
And but right now, to put a stake, to put an obstacle in our way, we're now considered to be entitled because of those ideas.
What
Just
the? Like the men are entitled?
Yeah, we're entitled because we think we can orate and dictate what just happened there. So we fucking lose no matter what. I was just being a bitch by saying that. But,
It's like, so, like, as if we, like what I just said there, we're killing the deer and dragging it home and all that.
Yeah.
It's like, as if someone would say, like, that's bad, I should say that?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I mean, I would definitely, I'd put a wager on it that somebody
said that's fucking bad. Let's actually just think about that for a second, because I'd like to actually know, like, let me actually just think about what would they say is bad about that. Though I would argue that's just fucking fundamental biology of how our fucking organism works for hundreds of thousands of years, clearly. But okay, here you go with some like brand new mainstream fucking feminists or something.
Yeah.
Here's what I guess they would say. No. You as a man think it is bad that you think you should be the one out hunting a deer, and that you think that a woman needs you to do that.
Yeah.
And you think, bad man, that a woman has to stay home and collect berries and make a fucking fire for you, a man who's out in the woods running around killing animals, you fucking animal killer, you. It's like, honestly, like, I know it's kind of funny, like, and stuff, but it's like, I'm actually not even kidding. Like, that is kind of what they would say.
Yeah.
And that actually kind of, like, is their vibe. But the point is, the way that they talk, it doesn't have any place, like, in nature.
No.
Or, like, in reality. It's this
That's right.
like total fucking fantasy
Yeah.
that they have this like massive luxury to concoct this insane fantasy of
That's right.
fucking grievances as they sit in some feminism department at a university where
Yeah.
some fucking coal miner slaved away to send his kid there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he thought somehow this would benefit his kid and that he was doing the right thing to slave away in the coal mines for 40 years and send his kid there, send his daughter there because he thought maybe that would help her. And
Yeah.
some stupid feminist sitting there in the feminism department and has lives in such luxury that she can afford to concoct these insane fucking notions and then feed it to that kid, feed it to
Yeah.
to that guy's daughter,
Yeah.
and like it's a shame because it's
Yeah.
fucking insane.
It is, and the thing too, right, is that people would actually ignore the latter part of the conversation where we establish that the reciprocal arrangement and the bolstering of the other, fundamentally, that idea outweighs what potential good could come out of two individuals being in that. I mean, and that's a sojourn together, right? That's why I view my relationship, for instance, it's a sojourn, right? It's something that is going to aggregate. I suppose it's not just me, us, but individually me, individually her. It's going to give us a foreground, an a priori structure to build on, you know, and there's all of these biological factors that you alluded to that play such a prominent role, and it's, you know, how can you commiserate with the exuding, devouring mother archetype? Because I think that that's where a lot of that stuff derives from. It's just pure chaos. And so anyway, that's how I see.
Yeah, and then like even in that circumstance there where I kind of described what the like mainstream would be angry about when I used that feminist fucking voice saying it was bad and mean. It's like that person who says all that, let's say that woman who says all that, the feminist woman who says all that, it's like the actual things she's saying, again, they don't hold up in reality because we're different, men and women. Now, if you were to then sit there and say like, well, the woman deserves the opportunity to go out there in the woods and march around for days on end in the rain and the cold, and there's lions and tigers and fucking mosquitoes and snakes with 10 other sweaty fucking old sweaty fucking warriors from the tribe that smell, and they're dragging spears along and fucking animal carcasses.
Right.
You're that feminist who's sitting there over at the university in her nice air-conditioned office, which she wouldn't even know how to probably turn the air conditioner on if someone didn't show her. She spends all this time creating this fantasy where she wants to make sure that a woman has the opportunity to do that. And it's like, okay, but I would wager a bet she doesn't want to. The woman, your wife in that situation, doesn't want to. Want to know why? Because I don't fucking want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to be out marching around in some stupid forest for days on end with spears and other hairy men trying to hunt down an animal that sure as hell doesn't want to be killed, and I'm trying to spear it with a chiseled out rock. It's hard. It's hard work. That's why it's called a man. That's why a fucking man did it. Because no one else wanted to do it.
No, that's right.
And the woman sure as hell didn't want to do it. Because she's not biologically evolved in that kind of way. You know what she is biologically evolved to do? other shit.
Yeah, that's right.
Other shit.
And females, you know,
and they're good at other shit, which is awesome.
Well, exactly. They're much better at a lot of things that men are not.
Way better. Way fucking better. Way better. And we love that. We love it.
Right. But that's where the reciprocity is created.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you this.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to provide this, and together we're going to have this.
Yes. Love.
That's right. Love.
Yeah.
Love.
Great.
Right. And I would say, first and foremost, and this might be a little insight for those who fundamentally disagree with anything that was just said. In all honesty, a relationship is first and foremost the enactment and embodiment of truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, regardless of the biological factors, if you set those aside, regardless of the societal factors, if you set those aside, if you can sit across from the table one-on-one and have a truthful discussion about anything, disagreeing or not, that is ultimate value, I would say, of a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I see no room for detesting another for disagreeing with
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
so
that's true. You don't need it's not a bad thing.
No,
it's not a bad thing at all to disagree on things.
Well, we can't be yes men, and women can't be yes women, I suppose. No. There's things that we're going to disagree about. So.
Absolutely, man. 100%, man. So what do we got here? We crushed a lot of things, bro. You were talking just a minute there before. You were going to say something about we're still kind of like carrying on from the 20th century. What did you mean? What did you mean by that?
So. I told you about ignored reality, right? And how ignored reality manifests itself into an abyss.
Yeah, ignored reality manifests itself into an abyss of confusion and chaos.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's think about the 20th century as a whole. So, and this is an enigma, a very arduous process. And we need to recapitulate, and that is important. That's the phoenix-like transformation. We need to transmute and disassociate ourselves, not to the degree that we deny it, but to the degree that we can understand it. We have to disassociate ourselves from what happened in the 20th century, and like I said, note and articulate our errors. And that starts on the individual level. Now, what I meant by that was essentially this. During the 20th century, we disseminated and dissolved and decimated our relationship with the transcendent aim. So we had, and that was mostly predicated in religion. But it wasn't just one particular, like let's say just Christianity, just Judaism, just Islam or Muslim, whatever it is. Anyway, what we've done there is we've eradicated that hierarchical structure. But what was left in its place? Well, I would say that it was an abhorrent, vast, expanding chasm of the most grotesque malevolence that has ever come to fruition, because the numbers of death that we saw during that time was out of this world, as far as we know.
Like First and Second World War and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Between those two. And in accordance with that, you saw what erupts from nihilism, its counterpart, right? A radical authoritarian regime that's making and keeping promises. Right.
On both ends, the Soviet Union and fascism in Europe.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a dystopian state where people are suffering and being ravaged. But the ideal that was in place was everyone will be equal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, big time.
Right.
Everyone's a Superman.
Right.
Everyone's equal in the Soviet Union. All the people are equal. Yeah, good point.
Right. And so that vast chasm, well, let's say as it goes down through time immemorial, some infinitesimal part of it, like this much, has closed up. And I would say we're still facing the vast and cosmogonic structure of that system, because I don't think it's dead.
I've said that many times in even different contexts. We really are still echoing the 20th century. Yeah, we really are in different ways. We are echoing the 20th century, and those same patterns are still playing themselves out. Like, we're still doing that. We're still that way. Like,
it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
Because when do we learn from it? And this is what so if we're going to stick on the political landscape again for a bit, the thing that really gets to me, and it's soul aching, right? It's gut wrenching, because I look around and I see these. Not everyone, mind you. I would say that where I am, maybe I just don't listen for it, but I certainly don't hear it as much. But regardless, I still see these people that are berated, bereft of anything to buttress themselves against reality. They're lost. And I look around and I see these people, and sometimes something occurs to me where I'm thinking, you need to do that sojourn, into the desert of your soul. You need to inculcate and contrive and recognize your idiosyncrasies. You need to see what precisely is holding you back. And it's all of those things that you're ignorant to. Or if you're willingly allowing these things to control you, then you're likely a sociopath.
Oh, shit. Right. Yeah, like, I think it's the first one. I think most people just... It's weird, man. Like, our society just doesn't even encourage any amount of, like, introspection. Like, in fact, it encourages the opposite.
Yeah.
Constantly distracting yourself with fucking Netflix and gossip and celebrity bullshit and drugs and alcohol and blaming some politician and blaming someone who didn't use the right fucking safe space word. And it's just all that. And you and I know, and the only people that I'm really interested in hanging out with and talking with, and the only books and lectures and podcasts I want to hear is people who do the opposite of that. People who are always trying to figure out, hey, maybe I was wrong.
Right. And that's the thing, too, is that I'm willing to admit and be humble in the face of my adversary, so to speak. Because my volition, my ambition, my goal is to not create offense. I'm simply trying to hopefully instantiate the ideation that there is more to us internally than what meets the eye. And this is what I've been striving and working towards for quite some time now. And a lot of that, say, would actually come from my dreams as well, which interesting.
Do you want to hit those right quick? Them dreams?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Hit them dreams.
Yeah, I've been biting my nails.
Yeah. No, let me hear that, man.
So I'll start with this. So I've got 3 dreams now in succession.
Yeah.
And I find these to be crippling and countervailing propositions I've sort of emulated from them. And so the first dream that I had started when I first really started to delve into what I would call my labyrinth, getting past that leviathan of the surface creature, that dragon, that primordial, grotesque, wretched thing of my soul that had been torn and decrepit for so long, just out of sheer happenstance, perhaps. I'm not a firm believer in that, but regardless, I had to dig deep, and lots of people won't understand what that means, maybe never understand what it means to go into that headspace, to seek out your natural being, your beast, and to try to revive that spirit. And so this dream that I had, I woke up in the dream, I suppose, on a lake shore. And I couldn't see behind me, but I could see a vast expanse of lake, and big trees were around, and there was this pestilential fog that was ominously creeping across the water. And in the sky is what perplexed me the most about this dream. It looked as though there was a cut through the sky, and within it was fire. It wasn't actually in the dream. Sorry, it wasn't fire that was coming out, but it had the same look, like the glow of a fire. It was a very interesting scene, and big bright stars everywhere. But the whole time I'm sitting by this lake, I'm sitting cross-legged with my hands like this. I'm sort of back and forth between the lake and the sky, and I can finally look at the lake, and it's a mirror image of the sky, because the lake was this obsidian glass black color. And anyway, the whole time I'm sitting by the lake, I can feel this presence. I could feel like as if someone's hands were on my shoulders. But they were digging in. It didn't feel like fingertips. It more or less felt like claws, which was interesting. And it told me to touch the water. And so inexorably, I poked the water. I associate that with my primitive curiosity. That's what I've started to think. Anyway, so the voice that emerged after I did that said something along the lines of, and this is where my dream becomes a bit obscure to me, said something like, that the ripples that you have created have unleashed multitude or calamities of chaos, or something like that. And the lake separated, and there's this hole that I'm staring into, and sort of synonymous with the sky, there was a glow, and again the thing behind me told me to jump, so I jumped, and it was an endless suspense, an endless fall. I'm falling. This time in the dream, I'm panicking, and I'm also surprised every time I tell about the dream. I'm surprised because I begged to stop, and I stopped, and I also had that feeling, in a dream when you hit the ground. Normally you wake up. I didn't wake up, and I started to, I think, become stressed out because I woke up in a cold sweat in the street after this. Anyway, the water started filling in behind me, and I turned about to face it, and it was that black mirror image again. And in it, I could see my reflection, my whole body. I was suspended in the face of this, and my reflection transformed into this beast, werewolf in nature. And I commiserated. I had this overwhelming sense of sympathy and pity. That's how I best describe what I think was going on in the dream. And the thing was trying to attack me. It was trying to come through, but it couldn't get through the barrier. So I reached my hand in, and it pulled me in. I gave it a hug, and then I woke up. Yeah.
Huh.
It was a very intense dream.
Interesting. I'll just add this in here just so people know. Dreaming is a powerful thing, I believe. Okay. A lot of the native traditions took dreams seriously.
Yes, that's for sure.
If a somewhat wise and intuitive member of the tribe were to have a dream that they felt was substantial, they would bring it to the elders in the tribe and explain that dream.
Yeah.
And the elders might take that seriously.
Right.
I had a dream about our tribe being attacked. Oh, really?
You're going to look into that.
Perhaps there's something there, okay?
Yeah.
And for the science people out there, that dreaming produces DMT.
Yeah.
Okay, and DMT is in psychedelics.
Yeah.
And we know that psychedelics like ayahuasca and DMT directly are incredibly powerful. And do seem to give you access to certainly wider realms of existence.
Right.
If anyone wants to know more, go check out the video I did with Klaus about my experience with ayahuasca. So I do believe there's subtle messages, perhaps unconscious, subconscious things that are being worked out. Okay.
Right.
So back to your particular dream there.
Yeah.
So you were kind of there looking out over this landscape with a tear in it, with a tear in the sky. Things were burning. You were being kind of coaxed along by something kind of digging into your neck, some type of issue, some type of tension was urging you along. And when that space opened up in the black sort of stark water, it opened up and that thing just shoved you in, really. And props to you for being willing to just either props or just recklessness, I don't know, but both maybe. You just went in. And you fell for a while, man, and you struck the ground, which is interesting because it was something in there was kind of solid.
Yeah.
And yeah, you woke up, and that's interesting, man.
Yeah,
What
and
yeah.
my I like that actually. I like the way that you just described it,
Hmm.
and I think as well. This is the conclusion. It's not necessarily conducive,
Hmm.
but what I imagined it to be, what I think it may be, was me finally embracing, the shadow from a Jungian perspective, the
Hmm.
beast,
Hmm. Hmm.
the evil, aggressive thing within that that plagues you. It's
Hmm.
that thing that if you try to go against it, it pushes back harder than you can actually can handle.
Hmm.
And so the reason why I believe that is because it was along the lines of the time that I was trying to establish the acceptance of the fact that I am the intermediary personification and person, I suppose, between order and chaos. I accept both good and evil, and that's an eternal human proclivity. It's the Edenic serpent, if you will. Uh, and we are those two things simultaneously.
Hmm.
But some people have a very naive presupposition that humans are intrinsically good, but there's a foul taste in your mouth, and mine at least, if I would try to submit to that or capitulate to that idea.
Hmm.
So I truly believe that I found something fundamental. It was a fundamental acceptance of my being as a whole,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is interesting.
Hmm. What was down in the hole again? Was there something, a beast down there? Did you say?
So the beast was there after I had turned face and looked at my reflection.
Right.
My reflection transformed
Into a
into the
beast.
beast.
Cool. That's
Yeah,
interesting, man. Yeah, there you were. You went down that hole, and what did you find but the beast?
yeah,
Merry Christmas. There it is. Make friends with it.
that's right.
That's
That's
cool,
right.
man.
And inculcate it, imbue
Cool,
that
man.
into your 100%.
Get in there. Okay, that's dope, man. All right, so you got another one?
Mm.
All right.
So a few nights ago, I had this dream that I was walking down a hallway, and it was rather opaque and kind of dreary, but it was bright and
Mm.
whatnot. But there was this woman in front of me, but it was obscure, incoherent. I couldn't make out any noticeable features. She just kind of opened a door and slipped into a room,
Mm.
but a, a big brown horse ran out of the door, kind of like crashed into the hallway. It was clumsy, and then it ran at me. But it started circling me like it was my dog, you know. But then I realized I had an inkling that it had ill intent, and so I grabbed the horse and I was holding it and saying like you will submit, like sit down. I was taking it and 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 holding it and forcing it. And I was actually, this is the first time I ever really had sleep paralysis.
Hmm.
I was overcome with fear, and I could feel my physical body kind of constricting, but I would not. I refused to let myself wake up until this horse was sat,
Nice.
and so I sat the horse and I woke up.
Good for you, man. That's So okay. So the what was going on with the woman again?
Yeah, so it's as if I was following her down the hallway or
Mm-hmm.
something,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's quite a few doors
Yeah.
along the way,
Yeah.
but she kind of slipped into one,
Yeah.
and then yeah, like the horse
Yeah. Yeah.
runs.
Okay. Yeah. 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 There you go. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. The nature of women, right?
Yeah,
They aren't princesses,
yeah,
so they can come out like a wild horse. And if you don't know how to deal with them, someone's going to get hurt.
fair.
So you were learning how to deal with it. That's pretty gangster that you sat there and remained asleep during that partial sleep paralysis, partially
Yeah,
awake, partially asleep, and you kind of fucking just forced yourself into that realm and sort of blurring the lines between wakefulness and everything. Shit ain't
yeah,
pretty, man. You know, it
yeah,
ain't pretty. It's messy. Things are
yeah.
messy.
It was untrammeled, and it was
Mm.
definitely a bit intimidating
Yeah.
because there was a brief second where I thought like I'm not gonna wake up.
Yeah, it's messy. You ain't coming back. You might
Yeah,
not, right? Some days, one of these days you aren't going to come back.
yeah, exactly.
And so it's you know what? That was gangster, and you were treading the line between reality and sleep and life and death
Yeah,
and you know what I mean? You sort of pushed the bar a little bit and must have moved a gear in there. You fucking
yeah,
shoved a gear, so that's
yeah,
gangster. All right,
yeah,
man. Yeah, you got one more?
yeah. So there's this bit of a reoccurring dream that I've had for quite some time,
Hmm.
and I found a good way to sort of describe it, but I just sort of nested in this primordial ocean, like this
Hmm.
sea of vagueness, where
Hmm.
I'm an island, right?
Hmm.
But I'm not in the water. I'm above, just above the water, but I'm
Hmm.
still moving with the waves.
Hmm.
And like and last night, usually I would have that dream where I would just float, and then the dream would either end or I'd wake up. Nothing would ever really go beyond
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
But last night, in the dream, for the first time, I transcended the the fog. I
Hmm.
was out of the vagueness.
Hmm.
I pierced the veil, so to
Hmm.
speak. I
Hmm.
was outside looking in at that vague space, and this light, the light, I could feel the radiant light, and then I woke up. That was the extent of that dream.
What was going on at the beginning with that island?
Well, that's it. I sort of just wake up, or I'm in the dream that I'm just there. There's no real precursor. There's no inclination or intimation as to how I arrived there.
Mm.
All I know is I have this sort of bird's eye view of this
Mm.
really small island.
What's it made of?
Mm, it's rocks, mostly rocks and some grass. I don't think there's any trees. So
So grass, solid earth,
yeah, yeah,
and rocks. Big rocks or small?
big rocks
So
mostly.
big rocks on a
Yeah,
solid earth island with grass.
yeah, yeah. Just and it's above the water, so it's not like because I'm simultaneously looking and am this piece of foliage. Well,
On
and
the
I'm
island.
right, and the island is just floating
Yeah, see,
above the ocean.
so
It's suspended in the air.
so that island,
Mm.
solid earth with rocks and grass,
Yeah,
is suspended
yeah,
like just a little bit above the actual water.
yeah,
And underneath it, the water's just flowing.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
And then
And so
from there, you kind of perceived yourself as foliage,
yeah,
but not on the island because there's no trees on the island.
right.
So you were foliage in somewhere else.
Sure. Yeah, that's right. I like I want in the view that I see. There's branches, right?
Oh, oh.
But I don't see tree.
Okay, so there's that island right there hanging above the water, and you're viewing that
Yeah.
island from an abstract position
Yeah.
through some trees and whatnot.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, through some leaves and stuff. That is interesting. And then you
Yeah.
wake up
And
from
then but like I said last night, I shot out of that atmosphere, which was interesting.
you shot out of like where you were hiding behind the trees or seeing
Yeah.
through the trees. Into
Yeah.
what? Into what from there?
Just into the sky.
Oh, it just into the sky. Oh, okay. Interesting. Into the and then you had that light coming at you too.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Then I woke up, and I've had that reoccurring dream for sure a long time,
Right? Like years.
Years,
Okay.
Yeah.
And but that's the first time that you've transferred from that position, kind of looking through the leaves onto that little island, and then off into the sky.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's perplexing, and I haven't had the opportunity to sort of convolute it or incrementally chip away at it, but I definitely have the propensity to do that within the next day or so.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you can put a little investigation into what's going on with that island there, and why doesn't it want? I feel like it should want to plop itself right down into that water.
Yeah.
And why is it not connected? I feel like that island should be bulging up out of the water,
right,
without a space in between it and the water, and therefore it would give you a better position to get down onto that island,
right,
out of those fucking trees, which somehow aren't even on that island.
Yeah.
Right? That tree that you're in should get planted on that island. There's no reason for it not to be planted on the island. Because there's grass there. But the issue is that fucking island is for some reason raised up off the water. So it can't sustain trees.
Right.
So
that's right.
That's what's putting you off into this different sort of dimension where it's difficult for you to see. And you're getting pulled off into the sun, which is nice because there's sun there. But if you were planted on that fucking island, and that island were planted into the fucking earth, popping out of the water, then you'd have the tree popping out of the island, and the foliage, and the sun. That's what I think.
That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective. And if I had to think of a dream analysis of it now, I would say that perhaps it's eliciting a foundational substructure of some sorts, because right now, for instance, per se, I have things in line. My proclivity, my emotional, professional. I'm aligned in that manner. And I have these things around me that are ready to be put in place. And so now I'm starting to base that, and then perhaps the overview of it was to take a look to see at how fortunate I am to have the ability to feel the sun on my face.
Perhaps.
And now the next thing to do is to drop that little island.
Yeah, 100%. Because the sun's still going to be there when that island drops and the tree gets planted. All that beautiful sun's going to come right down there and fucking grow that tree up for you.
Right.
Yeah. And this has been an ongoing long-term dream. So the gears are just shifting a little bit along with them other dreams you talked about. So I think it's not going to be an overnight thing. That island needs to get down into the fucking earth, come up out of the water. That tree needs to come the sun. But it sounds like you are making some fucking movements on it. That's pretty gangster,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. Okay.
That's it, man.
That's
That's
sick. All right, bro. Well, yeah, man. We fucking. I think we hammered out some good stuff here today, man.
yeah. People, they're going to enjoy it for sure.
I believe it, man.
I hope.
Yo, man. Nah, man. That's good, man. I'm glad we could do this, bro, and come on here.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you, because this is the first time I've ever I've been exposed to the public eye. It's the first time I've ever propounded or espoused my ideas aloud. You know, it's the first time that I'm in a position with yourself to be sort of thrown into the mix, to have my views and opinions and conjectures heard.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say that I hope that it's not merely perceived as anecdotal fallacy, and that there's not just mere utility in the things that we've articulated precisely tonight. I am a firm believer that what we've doled over for the last couple of hours is something worth pursuing. And for the opportunity to be a part of this, man.
100%, man. You're welcome. I appreciate it. And I definitely agree with you. I think it's important that, you know, someone like yourself or me, you know, that we get together and do these types of things, because not everyone's doing it.
Right.
And someone has to. You know, it's like, be the change that you want to see in the world. If you want people to be more intelligent and have productive conversations, then let's do that.
Right. And don't strive for sterile comfort.
Yeah, no.
Right?
It ain't perfect.
Comfort zone.
Yeah, man, nothing's perfect. But okay, man, do you do you have anything you want to send people to check out, or any recommendations of books or anything you want to?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we've elicited a few of those, but I think some implicit things to bolster your armament would be, if you're going to start along the lines of philosophy, I always recommend looking into Plato's Allegory of the Cave and Plato's The Republic. Get some Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. The Gulag Archipelago is a good read. And so
cool.
Nietzsche.
Yeah, you're a big Nietzsche fan. You really have turned me on to that, so I'm obviously going to have to look into that a little further. But yeah, man, no, that's good. I think that'll keep people going for a little while and maybe open their minds up a little bit. And this has been cool, man. And what do you think maybe about coming back on another time and we can have another one?
Hell yeah, for sure. And I will. Yeah, I have so many things that I could just.
Awesome, man.
Hours,
keep a list, and we'll come back and we'll bang off a few more next time.
Hell yeah.
Okay, my man. Let's talk soon.
All right, brother.
Okay, brother. See you later, my man.
See ya.